ahanba opening session ga iroinana ngasi pangthok sariba talk series Let's Talk Politics ki hoigi ngasi gi sigumlaba talk series asigi moderator amadi panelist sing oibigani amadi ngasi gi thorom asi haunaba sem saba khudimak loisalakpaga loinana akoigi mic akoigi moderator gi the program sinajari
Mayambu Kurumzari, a very good afternoon to all. And today we have a very interesting program as part of this beautiful initiative of MUSU, that is Manipur University Festival of Books. This, in fact, is quite timely because we have been suffering in different forms for last, 6-7 months, and as a kind of making the environment vibrant again, coming back to our old, university culture. MUSU has come up with this beautiful idea of having this program. And as a part of this, today we have this talk series titled Let's Talk Politics. And I would like to welcome each and everyone present here to this program. And please join me in welcoming our speakers today. We have 4 prominent speakers. They are prominent, not only prominent, they are very popular among scholars, students across the state. So we are fortunate to have them today. To name the speakers, first we have Dr. Farizuddin from DM University. Then we have Srima Ningombam from Imphal College, and Nambol Sanoi College. Then on my left, we have other prominent speakers. We have Dr. Aramam Noni from DEM University, and we have Dr. Dilip from the Department of Law, Manipur University. Yes, the topic given to this discussion is Let's Talk Politics. I don't like to say much, as I don't like to waste time, because we have these prominent speakers. They will present their views, different aspects of politics. But to say a few words about politics. Politics has been interpreted in different ways. But currently, politics is interpreted in a very narrow sense of the term. People think about elections only, about conflict, procession, so on and so forth. That what I feel is just a side of the entire spectrum of politics. There is another side of politics, which is in fact, often not discussed in public, which is about progress, which is about making human personality to its finest level, or making the environment conducive for peaceful coexistence. There are so many aspects of politics, but unfortunately, as I said, politics has been interpreted, or the way politics is going today or in this context is about only fighting for power, fighting for elections, or fighting for gaining some form of power, yes, maybe of wealth, so on and so forth. Now there was a very famous philosopher who is well known among the students and scholars of politics, ethics and philosophy, Plato, who said that, look, there are 2 kinds of goods which humanity often encounter. One kind of good is that of limited goods. The other kind of good is unlimited goods. This limited good is what people are aiming for, such as power, wealth, so on and so forth, pleasure. And that is why we have so many conflict, so many problems in the society, because everyone keeps aiming for that one. And this is very close to what Machiavelli also said. It's all about power. It's all about wealth. You try to have that one, and your success is, based on how much power you gain in the process. But there is another, side of politics. That is politics about gaining or getting that unlimited good, about knowledge, about progress of society, about making human beings better human beings, good human beings, so on and so forth. But anyway, I won't take much time. We have, as I said in the beginning, we have, some prominent speakers on this theme, and I will have the liberty to name one by one start the discussion. So let me invite first Dr. Farizuddin. From that, which one? So Farizuddin, please.
Very warm good evening to all of you, dear students. First, to the organizers, especially the Manipur University Students Union, respected guests who are sitting here, and most importantly, my fellow panelists who are also senior colleagues of mine, especially the moderator, Professor Bijan, for introducing me to be the first speaker. And I thank the organizers, especially the Manipur University Students Union, for inviting me and letting me to share some thoughts about the topic, which is very relevant and profound also. First of all, I just want to know from moderator how many minutes?
No, you can take, say, about 20 minutes?
Yes. Okay. I try to stick to since I'm the first speaker. So, I bilingual because sometimes what happens is sometimes I want to convey some message that I want to convey, and the best way to convey is my mother tongue. So I will be, to and fro going from one language to another language, which is English and Manipuri. So I know the other speakers are more experienced, and they have some grasp about the topic and all. So we all know we have been facing or challenges about gloomy, that everywhere in the campuses people are talking about conflicts, people are talking about, which is negative, and we are also just carried away by all these gloomy pictures. What will happen tomorrow? What about the issue there? What is about? And sometimes it is affecting us not only psychologically but also physically, and also in terms of education. And at the crux of whatever we want to talk about, whatever the politics, we must remind ourselves that we are talking about real people. We are talking about connections with real people. We are talking about human connections. We must never forget about it. Because when we talk about people, it is about, there are people who have rendered homeless, people who have been denied, their fundamental rights, starting from right to life, to right to shelter, then right to education, right to healthcare, even right to freely move across the territory of the state, our state. So they have been denied, geographical, that kind of right to move, to shelter. People had dreams some months back, but they were completely shattered because of the conflict. So at the core of that, I just want to remind that we are talking about real people. And beyond that, I just want to, because I don't want to touch more about, because there are other speakers who will talk about that, topic in depth, and this is my hope. So I just want to digress from the issues, but still politics. And as a student of international relations and international politics, I just want to start those few ideas about the linkage, the intricacies that we have between global geopolitics and local politics in the context of ethnic strife that is unfolding in our state for the past few months. So my first idea will be, in a world, first question in fact, will be, in a world where international relations are increasingly interwoven with local dynamics, and given the context with how globalization has shaped our thinkings and attitudes, both in non-verbal and verbal sphere, to understand these linkages between geopolitics, what is happening beyond our home state, and the local politics is of profound importance, and should not be, my idea is, my suggestion is that, my contention is that it should not be of exclusive to academic interest, but it should be a necessity for local governance as well as building peace, particularly in this troubled state that we have been witnessing. So at the heart of the question is, how do global politics or global political currents influence local politics, particularly in a region where there is an ethnic diversity and complex historical intricacies that, even if we want to deny, it is undeniable. So my context will be Manipur, but I will not give, I will give a variety of examples from international geopolitical, how geopolitics in different regions across time line have affected ethnic diversity, affected ethnic conflicts. So Manipur, as we see it, with its rich cultural tapestry, or we say fabric, and complex history, offers a unique lens to explain the intricacies or the interlinkages between geopolitics, global geopolitics, and local dynamics. Firstly, I just want to give you one lens through which we can understand these interlinkages. Number one, for example, say if we look at global economic policies, interstate policies, global economic policies, which has been, how it is affecting local politics. For example, if we take economic sanctions, just at bilateral relations, Bangladesh ka India ka bilateral relations amatore. So if that bilateral relations treaty includes FDI flows into the country, to and fro movement of people, how it affects? It affects us in a variety of ways. The most intense way is that if it is not negotiated, for example, with due consideration of the local fabric, local aspirations, then it could result into a disaster effect on people. It could have impact on, say, our, say, agriculture, local industries. So this is one example. So economic marginalization at the core of ethnic conflict everywhere, not only in Manipur, is a politics of redistribution. And here we are talking about, in our context, it's about geographical distribution, the contestation about geographical distribution, as well as redistribution of resources, since the resources are limited. So there is a contest over there. So the global politics, if two countries on their own sovereign rights have some, for example, economic policies, then the economic policies has impacted local dynamics also if it is not carefully negotiated. So this is one aspect of looking at. The second aspect of looking at is the global diplomacy. How international diplomacy and foreign policy is shaping local ethnic crisis. I just want to take one example of, say, Russia-Ukraine war to make my point that it is everywhere that ethnic crisis, whether it is within a state or within a region in India, it has reverberations, it has ripple effects which of any geopolitical contestation outside that region. So it is shaping that. For example, Russia-Ukraine war, Russia-Ukraine invade towe. Now, the question arises there is a feeder. For example, it has ripple effect in Poland, it has ripple effect in Germany, which is at the heart of the Western Europe, and it has ripple effect in, say, we call it Baltic states. For example, Latvia and Estonia, in particularly these two states, although there are three states. For example, Latvia, amasung say Estonia, they are Baltic states, part of Eastern Europe. There are Russian ethnic minorities who speaks Russian, and ethnically also minorities. So the dynamics of interaction between these Russian ethnic minorities in Latvia and Estonia affected because of how Russia has invaded Ukraine, and what is the narrative about the Ukrainian resistance that has been created across the world, led by global media, particularly in the western parts of the globe. So this is one aspect of it. Even within Christianity, the Orthodox leaders in Moscow refused to speak with the Vatican Pope, which is the Moses of the Christian world. So that is also another schism, in the sense that the Pope started taking position of European Union's sanctions against Russia, making Russia as a pariah state because of the invasion, whereas the Orthodox leaders in Moscow or parts of the Russia, although they both belong to Christians, so they have these schisms and divisions also, just because of one geopolitical war between two independent countries. This is one way of looking at also. Now, the third point I want to look into about trying to link between this interlinkage between the two, that is global geopolitics and local politics, is about how in the digital age, how the geopolitical landscape has transformed, how the political engagement, how do people engage. For example, again coming back to local politics that we saw unfolded in our state between particularly two communities, how misnarration and how kind of manipulative kind of media warfare has transformed a simple ethnic community clashes between two communities into a religious clashes, and that has impact on diaspora of a particularly community within and outside India. And this I can relate to another example where a malign actor who has been accused of invading a sovereign country for so and so reasons, Ukraine wanted to join NATO and Russia denies it, wants it, but anyway Ukraine wanted to join it, so Russia so premeditatedly invaded it. Sige invasion sina kamay to how the Russian media played a kind of victim card against Western hegemonization in the Russian sphere of influence. The Russian government, particularly Putin-led government, Kamaina media, digital age, the manipulation, and it's using deep AI also to show that how it is winning in parts of the Ukraine when it is not true in reality. So the global digital ecosystem thus directly impacts local politics, shaping public opinion and political mobilization also. And we can always relate when we say about during the Cold War also, there is a connections also, and even in the 21st century we are seeing from the local level, particularly from our state, to different levels. And I want to contend this point also, Karigumba, Myanmar, we are staying with a very politically unstable sovereign state known as Myanmar. We are we are bordering with it, and economically unviable or politically unstable oiruba adumaina akoigi strategic positions ina kamaina akoida shape tawi. There is a simple line of thinking that I have been proposing in my talks also, or in my writings also, that if 2021 February political military coup by the junta regime in Myanmar si masi toramdaba taragadi ngasi Manipur gi conflict si leiramdaba yai haibagi aigi 99% aigi thajaba layeba. So we are looking like intrinsically inside the but how geopolitical factors, for example, military junta na daring coup ma 2000 say nepita udatawe. Do you think without the blessing of China or Chinese state can military junta take a coup? Haidi US na support to riba adugo bas Aung San Suu Kyi gi adugo regime dubu democratically elected regime dubu kamaina intubangam gani. So China, although we don't have a concrete or conclusive evidence that China is involving in the military coup, but the observing as a my observant is without Chinese blessing, still the military junta will not be able to survive. Will not be able to survive this. They will fall. But adugi if impacts ina akoigi pikraba, and I consider this particular state as a Northeast region. So akoigi almost Northeast region ni weak structure ne lowe. So sometimes what happens is. Weak structure oiba society that the impact of migration, the impact of immigration in particular is huge that we cannot deny it. Aduna military as well as politically strong structures in the immigration content of and the impacts can also be arrested. But in a weak structure, politically as military, in a state, small state like Northeast Manipur where there is so much to develop, I think the impact of immigration and that created some form of security dilemma, international relations, a security dilemma among the ethnic communities also. And I think it's a natural thing also. So what I want to suggest is that the way forward, whatever happened had happened. Lastly, I want to conclude that the way forward is about having having a climate of intercultural dialogue, intercultural climate, in a long-term peace building state asida leba asida sagat ke hai taragadi intercultural dialogue intercultural dialogue yanaraba climate ama sagat pa madarkar lai climate se sagat na dang bidam intercultural exchange sagat na nabagi damakta what are the elements have akoina as a scholar amoina as a student amoina akoina darkar khara dilai akoi ahan bada cessation of violence and all these things are common very kanu oiba banal oiba ideas, which is very much important, but I think there are particularly 4 elements also to build up this. Ahanbada koige perception se yam phajana, and it should start from Manipur University, and I am very happy that you are the student union in particular is taking charge to organize such thing because it makes a climate which is very conducive to academic learning. Perception, habadi beliefs, values, attributes, adagi social organization, makaise perception se koi question to boma darkar lei aduga apabada purak boma darkar lei ani subada verbal amasung ahum subada non verbal ani subagi sina akoi cultural symbols sing se kamaina akoi gi state chibu unitedly natraga asigi territorial integrity sing nga kya taragadi cultural symbols akoina verbally tangible form the kamaina portrait awi haibasima akoina madumaso akoina khandabam chummi haina khali aduga ahum subada non-verbal shared thoughts masigi platform kamain oigani masigi strategy kamain oigani haibasima aduga last contextual elements suppose education gumba healthcare gumba maro in a governance sector da masiswe henkat pain. So these 4 elements have to go simultaneously. One element can be a bit of delayed, but again our push should be to push these 4 elements to build an conforming matam chiga chana ba peace building the conform to aduguma intercultural gi climate ama semba darkar layena ujai masiga loina na. I just want to wind up my talk about this yamna serious oibadi male, but sometimes to give a perspective I have to be a bit serious also. And lastly, I want to say one thing which is my personal belief, which is not related to academic also, and to conclude with this, I want to conclude that if suppose when it comes to ethnically diverse oiba or multi-ethnic oiba state kumba khoi sidadi kamaina no habakanda, if one ethnic community or a community chooses to be separation or marginalization, there is a consequence for that in the thing also. So I would say that from denial to differences, I should say that it should be of acceptance, it should be of adaptation, and finally we must look through a process of integration, which is a bit different from assimilation also. And this is my personal belief. With this, I thank you again, and I want to wind up. Thank you so much for the attention.
I see new faces there, so welcome to this program. And actually, I forgot to mention Dr. Fariz did his PhD in international relations, and he also had a book published on the same theme. He did a lot of work concerning American foreign policy, if I'm not wrong. And he has, he in fact is the right person to talk about the, geopolitics, especially in the context of emerging issues of conflict across the globe. So thank you, Dr. Faris, for your illuminating speech. And we can invite at least 2 questions from the crowd, not more than 2 questions. And if we have many other questions, we can have them in the latter part after all the speakers presented their, views. So if there is anyone with any questions, please raise your hand. Only 2 questions. So actually, yes, please keep this in mind and keep forming questions in your mind. We can have later on also. Next, we have another very popular, a well-known speaker with us, Dr. Srima Ningombam. She's presently teaching in Nambol El Sanoi College. Her area of interest is women and gender studies. Is currently pursuing her PhD on the same theme. She has published a couple of articles on that, and she has been following very keenly the issues concerning women and gender. So now I invite Srima Ningomba for her presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Respected panelist and moderator on the dais, and my dear friends, it is my immense pleasure to be here and addressing you on this occasion, although we know that we are in a very tense situation because of what happened yesterday, and on the streets. As I came along, I know Huzi Laksabada, my baby, my mamma toga, Huzidum labor, Somnas Ubiram Gani, I know Uzare, other situations, they already am the tense over environment, and Mada going a see discussion, say, Tauzari, Hizabatarico. Adunga Sigi talk, Sigi Tanjase Lozeraga. Let me discuss about the identity and the subjectivity of Meitei women. From a feminist perspective through a gender lens. Now, today's talk is about let's talk politics. Now, when we are talking about politics, Ozabizen also already reiterated that politics is about power relations. One group of people or one person having a power over the another. Now, what does it mean by having a power over the other? A has power over B in the sense that A can make B to do something which B would otherwise never do. Me, I'm gonna say, then I have the power over the other. See conception, basically the classical politics, the high say the power over Sideboko. Now, if we look from a feminist perspective, when we bring women and politics, we have to understand how this power over is exercised over women as a group or over women as an individual. Now, if we look and go back to the second wave feminism, radical feminism evolved or loinana. Makoina Heidi say, personnel is political. Now, what does it mean by personnel is political? Now, what the feminists are trying to say is that politics have an area say. It is no longer confined only to the public space. Rajniti have a public space ta. Electoral politics ta uraga, vote lebna raga, karaga, rule ta uraga, policy se ba do. Adu khakta na rajniti oi ba yara roi because rajniti se akoi na bring down ta uraga and the family amasung private domain da rajniti se akoi uhandraga di nupigi yaifanaba emancipation of the women is not possible without bringing politics in the arena of the private space. That is the very reason why feminists are claiming that personnel is political. That phrase is actually the slogan of second wave feminists, radical feminists slogan. Now bringing that point, when we look into our women, when I say our women, the scope is limited to Meitei women because I belong to Meitei women, and I can tell you from my personal experiences as well as the narratives that I have been hearing and interacting with the people. Adugi basis tani ahakna mayam gi mamang ngasi thamjagadore how have we constructed the identity and subjectivity of our women? Now aina sum uzabada ko we are seeing a contradiction when it comes to subjectivity of our women, a contradiction. Now, when we look at the private space, women follows all the norms that is set up by a sex-gender system, which is a male-dominated. In the sense, cliche, when we use the word patriarchy, come on, we use it and it's a cliche. It's like a sex-gender system where male domination prevails. That is what we call patriarchy. And patriarchy in a generate the dual qualities of femininity and masculinity here. Fazana follow within public and private domain as well. Nevertheless, adu oy taraga so akoy na uri basi kari no maitai nupi public space ta thogla aga mobilize to ngambagi capacity. Any problem am tholak pada khudakta mobilize tawraga protest tawba demonstration tawba masagi body sizinaraga bhau if you look back in the 2004 nude protest they used themselves and their body as a tool and as a mechanism for protest adu sizinaraga tawbagi level bhawangamba akoy gi maitai nupi ne ba koin urise in the consolidated form of Maira Paibi. So we are seeing a contradiction. Seeing contradictions, understand resolution is not there because we are already trapped in that contradiction. It will take a long time to evolve into a different scenario. But seeing contradictions there, kamaina oira ke have seen aina questions ngasi thamjari siko. Masigi paukum ja ipina bhona jage mangasi. Now, akwagi socialization process in akwagi gender identity shaped or opanigo as much as any other identity. Our quick process of socialization is very important. Now, two ways we can see that how we are socialized as a Meitei women. The first is that the tradition of akwagi ancient heresy, ancient religion, akwagi isagi folklore, ancient religion oiba Meitei gi oiba akoigi folklores na akoi se inform tawraga dum la abaneba samna hairabada akoigi wari da akoina panthoibi gi wari akoi dum liba thengnei moirang thoibi gi wari akoi thoibi se it must be one of the most common names in the Meitei household. Nupi masa ma akoi na pogadi mahaki pet names e akoi na thoibi haina thole thondra ne even akoi da yam nungshijaba nupi ma uradi thoibi haina ko was it's a very common part. So akoigi wakhallol da akoigi conception da panthoibi thoibi amasung makoigi panthoibi gi incarnations me amaman lady ko. For example, nong thang lai the goddess of lightning, they are very powerful figures in our folklore. Sigi figures here akoina taraga folklore ina sagat laga akoina lisang sit na laaba akoigi itihas amusung culture se ngasi akoigi identity da it runs through our veins and arteries. Sini aina haizaning isego si akoina thana ba yade kamaina si I'll give you one solid example how it is reflected in our socialization. If you go back to our textbook, class 11 12 ki textbook ta soidana namaki huzi su essay ma yauram gani ko essay ani ne yamaroi be essay ani ko hawaibam ranavri na iba ko Meitei sanu haibam ma aduga thoibi debi na iba Bharat sanu gi orders haibam ga mayam soidana maki thena biram gadra na hak thajai manipuri lor ko kangu di ko sigi essays ani se 1980s dagi no huzi pause adum yauraga leirabane ba textbook se tamsu tam abani paraga su la aban generations have gone through reading that textbooks. But what I'm trying to tell you is that asiki essay anise, if you analyze it properly, diametrically opposite hierarchy, but the ideals that they are supporting is very, very interesting because of the contradictions in terms of the idealhood that they propose. Now, however, Ranabina Haiba was give Maitais and who's the Haris Kairo. Akoigi Maitais and Nugi ideal D. Akoidi Sita Sabiti the derived of Nate. Akoidi Ko Moirang Toibi Amusum Hakis High on the derived or Pani Haiba. That's what he claims, that our idealhood is derived from our indigenous folklore, our indigenous ideal womanhood, epitomized by freedom, epitomized by courage, valor. If you look and go back to the story of Panthoibi, she's not merely a goddess. Mahaki Panthoibi Kongul Haina ancient text of Paragadi, we will find out what kind of a woman she is. She is a notorious woman, I tell you, from Hangasigi moral perspective, if you judge her. She had an engaged marriage, but clan-based society or manina clanship is strengthened. Clan number ginupisi atopa clan number the mapana pibase. It is a kind of a global phenomenon. Clan-based world that inupise women is kinship amsung clan that the women is there an object of exchange. Housing so akoy na ko luhong bahay se luhong bahay institutions se housing so it is happening on that basis only, that women is exchanged as a gift or as an object. Exchange never to strengthen two clans. Now, aduki tradition ni ngasi country. Moirang Panthoibi was one of those icon, legend. Mahak engaged or luhonge, but she had a lover. She kept a lover. My she had a long liaison with him. She had extramarital affair. Nobody could control her. Nobody, and she doesn't care also. She never cared also. She never cared. Yam phazazane mahak se kamaina sai thage da ko mahak na singhi samba lang da ba hiden leiti hai ne ba hiden khuding da mahak na singhi samba lang hai di. She had a bath. Koi hiden je kai hai to English, I don't know what it is called, okay, but koi gi adugi hi thang pham do adugi adu chatla like she is an outgoing woman. If you go back to her persona, she's never afraid of anything. But in spite of that, mama pa na haragama luhong hiya ba other than last day kamay to matamda, she eloped with Nongpok Ningtho and she resided and built up a kind of a civilizational ethos in the Nomaising Hills. Adu daki mahagna lai harabugi codified or ethics them ad irami hai mana putomi hai ba matamda. She is the first summons hai ba kwaidagi ihan han ba maibi se mahagni aduga kwaidagi ihan han maibi ki text se codified or se mahagni na hai ba. So she is a very powerful woman. Adu gumba powerful eba women da adu ne ba akoi gi ideals according to Hawaibam Ranavir Singh. Now if you look in the other essay, Thoibi Devi na Haris na karino mahagna Haris na in spite of everything, because we already are in a society where we have seen the advent of Vaishnavite Hinduism. So Vaishnavite Hinduism ki ethos to por aga Brahmanical ethos to adum lakta ba yadab ni na di bamon mayam laga like akoi ki ethos to por aga akoi da Sati Saviti amasung Damayanti Sita sigi ethos e akoi ki society de su adumak yamna fazana entrance oraga leire aduna makoi ki ethos e asisu yaw we cannot construct an ideal Meitei woman without the ethos of Sita, Savitri, Damayanti. This is what Thoibi Devi is saying. Adu haidana mana yam phasana clarify to God. That doesn't mean that akoi subservient or akoi husband da natraga men folk ta leibasina akoi Meitei gi ethos ma haideba. What she is saying is that akoi gi self-sacrifice isabu katokpa aiga laiminariba mi singi damakta icha iwa isin ina husband father-in-law mother-in-law damda katokpa ngamba nungsiba ngamba unconditional love piba ngamba adugum laba quality do akoi na sien gadong ni adu siela kanda da akoi Meitei nupi gi fazaba do oi haina mahang na hairameba adu di akoi yenga seba ko. In the same book there are two essays, and those two essays are saying like in fact two different things of the sources of idealhood of Meitei women. Adubo, what can we conclude from that is that in spite of everything, those two ideals goes hand in every Meitei women's subjectivity and magi action. Masi aigi I believe so. You also question, we can question it again and again, and we can try to reframe the answer again and again. But that is my position that akoi adumak animak thadoga animak hundok pase akoi ngamdri hai tare ko. Mayam, I sum uzawada mayam su khanbiyu. You can always ask a question. We can always have a debate on it. Ada thadoba ngamdabni na ngasi akoi na uri base. Akoi mayam se akoi loina mak nupi khudi mangwara pai bini na haira se akoi thoglakani, akoi protest tawgani, akoi ya ngamna ba akoi human rights ki fight tawgani, akoi gi miwat minegi against the fight tawgani. Adubu akoi na at the same time akoi sigi gender ki construct ki patriarchy construct si akoi free oibra haibadi akoi ngamde haiba. Ngamdri ba koi husik phau aduna akoi na masigi contradictions here sagonar every woman ko maitai women we are enmeshed in this two component of idealhood of maitai of a woman adu sisne han thamjaning badi ko now another question very interesting question is that then are we going to say that there is no feminist politics in our society wahang amasu hang aseba akoi gi feminist ki oiba rajniti se koi later brava for a very long time I always used to say that no there is no feminist politics. There are many reasons I can cite you many examples why we don't have a feminist politics, although there are several women organizations like going to be organization if you have noticed sahi khara gi mamang the journal azu tho mane nupi gi punsi hai na you must have read some of the journals. It is completely within a patriarchal setup, the IBA journal niko. Aduga secondly, if you look into the organizational work, how do we try to solve a woman's problem? We do not try to solve a woman's problem from a feminist perspective. Rather, we always try to look at the women's problems from a well-defined masculinity and a femininity from a patriarchal perspective. I'll give you one example. Suppose let's say that since I personal experience there is a viral video of Nupama Namagin girlfriend viral video explicit video Tagalak pasida nupisi na case taurani whatever magi procedures atharani go, and then you might also inform certain human rights organization or women's organization. Now, how do women's organizations see to it? I tell you one example go. They try to question the women's ethics. Heidi, they will ask why this woman is doing that with the man. Why the woman is out in the dark in the late night? Natro. Why the woman is behaving like that? Now, that is not the way that a feminist politics would try to address the situation, right? So, there are many women's organizations, but what is missing is a feminist perspective and a feminist methodology to solve the problem. Now, if we look into the case of Myra Paibi, if we judge them from a Western perspective, a Western feminist perspective, we cannot say that it is a feminist movement. It is a women's movement, well respected, one of the largest human rights based women movement in the entire North, maybe in India as well. We have to verify the fact, but it is a well-known human rights based women's organization, like Women's Network all over Manipur. But when it comes to a feminist perspective, it's still questionable. Because of the, see, I'll give you one example. When we go to the road, when the panik yalaga, when lambi the tatlaga gari tingi. Hantak so dum incident kra ugi panik yalaga tingi. What is the motive behind that? There may be two ways to understand ko. Ay na isagi indigenous way da, ay isagi own way da, ay isagi kaino season nazaraga, ay fight obuni, resist obuni. There is one way of looking into it. Another way of looking into it is that panik se mange ko. Panik is a polluted attire. Our conception da ko ikudu lay banina. Nu panik se nu paamta na swakya da nina. Panik is a very good probe to stop any bypass. This is one way of looking into it. Now, another case, let's see. Society da, I don't know, I cannot tell you about the frequency, but is a dabigi case. Is a dabigi case. Karmain thoke habam matam da. Nupi nupa masel or harga luhong the bug issue la aganda a compensation kara nupi to the piragalotion of people quite away. Sigi issues in a command of government that we are assigning certain I don't know a certain value in terms of monetary benefit to the dignity and honor of the woman, which is entirely like inappropriate if you look from a feminist perspective. A women's honor cannot be assigned with any value as such. Issue it's very hard to say that although it is a women's movement functioning largely and efficiently, to say that it is a feminist movement. But having said that, when we look at the 2004 nude protest in front of the Kangla, after the brutal murder and killing of Thangzam Manorama, so in Kangbiram 12 mothers na nude protest toki. 12 mothers na nude protest toki. And I believe that that is the one phenomenon where Myra Paibi have tried to reclaim their lost honor, their lost consciousness, their lost body in the battlefield of militarization. And I would strongly call it one of the episodes of a feminist movement done by Myra Paibi. It's undeniable. It's still, we can still debate on it, but my perspective is that that is the one time that Myra Paibi have actually tried to reclaim their body using their body. If we look into, if we read Kwegi Mahasweta Debigi, Draupadi, Dubodi, and Namagi short story, if we read that, Nupima Maxe was minor militarization and rape ki victim ne, the mass rape toroga, disrupt toroga, she was mutilated, she was mutilated. But at the end, Magi last sinduda, Magi bodies a pima mawanda. Sinang Sesilona go, Magi Zigi Senana, Exigim Nata Sapudu de Mase, Pima Selona Peter, they have raped her, gang raped her go. And she refused the clothes. She said that, she said that I will not give you the power to dress me. That's with her mutilated body, she stood in front of Senanayak. And that was the only point when Senanayak was frightened of any person. Senanayak was armed, fully armed, but that woman doesn't even have a dress, but her body, her will was the tool which frightened her oppressor. So if you analyze from that perspective, nude protest, that is one moment where women used their own body as one of the magnificent tool of protest. And that is one of the remarkable act and remarkable achievement of Myra Paibi. Asumaina I analysis Tamzaningi I don't know how much time I have taken, but one thing that we have always have to remember, especially in the present context, in any situation of conflict, in any situation of war, women's body has always been the site of battlefield. When aduk silent layruraba Indian state it spoke only when two women gi nude parading became viral. Chumbibra. Afasfa was revoked from the municipality area only after the 12 nude mothers protested nude. And handaksu huziki women gi two women gi nude parading say I would not really say which community they belong to, because women are women, whichever community they belong to, it doesn't really matter, but the point is that it is always a woman's body on which the politics has been laid out, especially in the context of militarization. In Manipur, Kashmir, it has happened in Kashmir, it has happened in many other West Asian, Middle East countries where war is still going on. Aduna serious situations that we have to be very careful where we are, where we stand, regardless of which community do we belong to. And I tell you another interesting point here. See, there is a hue and cry. There's a hue and cry, and there was a whole attention from other parts of India as well. But I tell you one thing, Adugi talked to game Mamang Duda. On 3rd May itself, I suppose I need verification. IT more than 83 years old Nupi Maitharga Mayum the Maitharga Sigi. soindermaki mayam ningsing biram ga ko adu matamduda no one said anything at all ko no one said anything at all ko aduna akoina ugadoriba posidi karino the state will pick up and see what they want to see ko and what they want to politicize ko sisu ugadam deba aduga but another argument that we can pose is that Adi huziki nude parading se thokra matungda this happened to young women young sexually active women. So is it because of that you are magnifying the issues? But an 83 or 85-year-old woman's body which is devoid of any sexualization, are you like not caring it because it is just merely a body? These are the questions that we need to raise. At adugi mamang dasu adu matung dasu, there have been so many cases of disappearances, so many footages of people being killed and murdered. Ko huzik su trace to wangam da laye ba mayama ko. Adagi handa kui dana amuksu amuk koigin satri amaga satra amaga mangkhibagi adu matungda amuksu mabani gi dead body to light tarale gi amuksu photo amasung thola kanza. There's another big hue and cry, and in the media also ain uzabase kai uge haba matamda akoigi concerns we are so akoida khoishau nariba. Why is our angst coming? Our angst is coming more from the fact that that girl must have faced sexual assault in what magnitude we can't imagine. Ko adugi angst to the deba akoina proper satana mayam na tonoriba potse ko. This is also one way of looking at ko. But what I'm trying to suggest is that nupa khangdi, nupi khangdi, ahang khangdi, angang khangdi, when a person is violated, when a person is killed, it is the responsibility ko of the state and its agencies or whatever ko the justice giving mechanism ki address it. Sab manana yeng basi mathau ta dabra haibadin dai haisi ko. So let's not politicize over a woman's body. A woman's body is as important as a man's body, as important as an old woman's body or an old man's body. When we are talking about casualty, when we are talking about assault, when we are talking about violation, we have to look into it as seriously as any other violations. Okay, lastly, I just want to say that Hozikan gi yamna discussion hour da I sum yeng zabada yamna toina panba wahayam khak ai haizaramge. We always say that akoi gi sarkar se am phatre, akoi gi lengak lon se am phatre, aduna akoi nupa thokpa lengak ama papi. Mayam tabibra, mayam thengnabibra ba. So, you know, this kind of statements that when we hear, we have to really question it. We should not just take it at the face value. So what does it mean by asking that we want a masculine government? In fact, they are saying that we want a hyper-masculine government. But what we have to know is that hyper-masculinity is one of the main feature of militarization. According to militarization, long history of militarization, it is an effect of the hyper-masculine socialization, hyper-masculine ways of addressing the other or the enemy. Aduna siki wahaisina lo liu se karino have we need to read.
As a tool of resistance, as a part of the resistance, aduga number 2 as a part of unidentifying, de-dignifying of de-dignifying the status of mighty women. Mighty women see we handana kanbagi habigi point nama amana resistance point nama to see perspective the kai oigedeno have simtang kathambira maitara. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ali.
Ali, thank you so much. I am natabiram bagida magda aduga for the question as well. Maitay nupina mapanthoga earning taurise kogi emancipation ki oidura natraga patriarchal setup ki oidura haibne ko. I perspective to D definitely it is a mode of emancipation ko. Oidoi ko. Karigino haiba matam the financially independent or economically independent or it is one of the main factors of women's independence ko, women's freedom. It is almost impossible to achieve women's emancipation. Now another now second question is the phanek is the tool of resistance that raga phanek se dignify behind the term to receive. But amase akoina khangseng seng do habadi yaroi we are already in a system of taboo and stigma ko. Aduna masi aigi miyeng dadi masi phanek ama puthoga thingaga ai masina
Crowd that Musu has a very innovative idea of providing support to those who are in relief camps. So the people from relief camps are displaying some of the goods they produce. That is their own goods. So just to help them, if possible, buy something from that, and that is a very good way of helping those people from the relief camp. Thank you, Musu, for that idea. Now we have Dr. Noni Arambam from DM University, Department of Political Science. Dr. Noni is a well-known face, in fact, in Manipur. His area of interest include Northeast India and borderland. He has written a lot of articles and some edited books with renowned publishers, and he is currently executive editor of the journal called Alternative Perspective. I hope the last issue of that journal will be coming out very soon. So now I invite Dr. Arambam Noni from DM University.
Thank you. Thank you, Manipur University Students Union, and also I thank everyone who are here, and also my respected friend and colleague, Professor Bijen, for moderating the session, and also my fellow panelists who is speaking on the topic that is given here today. I think let's begin with the first question, what is the problem? I think whenever we try to engage with any kind of issue, I think we need to first raise this question, what is the problem? I think the problem is to understand what is politics, because the topic itself is designed in such a way that, let's talk politics. Why there is a need to say that we need to talk politics? Because I think we have not been talking about politics. That's one big problem, I guess. When Shima was talking about these symbolic use of women's clothes during the protests, I think there is one fundamental problem. If one starts saying that this is a weapon of the weak, there is also a problem. The problem is that when you're using undergarments of women or the clothes worn by women as a symbol of protest to cause, kind of a resistance to the public, I think there's a problem in the uses of this kind of method, because then you start kind of failing to understand the indoctrination that is happening in the very process of using these clothes. Why I'm saying the word indoctrination is very important, because we have been failing to talk about politics largely because in the universities or in the schools or in the colleges, we have been largely confined to the processes of indoctrination that is being taught about in the classrooms and the university campuses. Let me remind you with one very important scholar who has talked about these points. His name is Paulo Freire, who has written a book called Pedagogy of the Oppressed. That book is giving you an insight how universities and colleges are, or in fact, he was talking about Brazil, in fact, in the late 60s. He was of the view that, the universities and the colleges were trying to sort of indoctrinate students with a given confined, well-designed syllabus. That was causing a problem to the youths, because youths are not able to understand the political complexities that they were living with. So having said that there is a need to understand the indoctrination processes that happens in the university, the students begin to lose their insights about critical understanding, critical thinking, and also to understand the complex relationship of power. Having said the problem of indoctrination, I would say that talking about politics is never easy historically. Socrates had to die, consuming poison because he was trying to talk about politics. he was trying to talk to people around him that why politics is important to be talked about. Within this campus also, I fear, and I've seen also to a great extent, that talking about politics is something that people either fear or wouldn't like to engage or indulge into. So talking about politics has become a site of indulgence, which means that when you say that talking about politics is a sort of indulgence, then you are trying to avoid talking about politics and you're trying to give a negative connotation about politics. In the very beginning of the discussion today, the moderator had said that politics is something that we normally try to avoid talking about. I think this is fundamentally because the institutional system that we have seen around has been systematically trying to discourage people and youths to talk about politics. Not only the youths and students, but also the larger aspect, the larger side of academia where the faculties are also beginning to fear to talk about politics. If we do not understand this situation of fear, I think we would not be able to really understand politics. Not only understand politics, the very possibility of talking about politics is going to be almost impossible. So then what do we have to do now? The first thing we have to understand is that why the environment of fear is being created and how the environment of fear is being circulated and reinforced over a period of long time, and seemingly we probably cannot see a future that is bright, that is going to be conducive to the process of free speaking. When I was talking about this pedagogy of oppressed nation, of the oppressed, he is very clear. Paulo is very clear to say that there is a freedom, there is a fear to talk about freedom because students are no more allowed to speak about what is right and wrong. So when you have a situation of like this, the possibility of producing truth factor in the discourses is going to be very, very difficult. Now I want to say that I will still confine to this first phase of my speaking, that is, what is the problem? I have a couple of points to share with you. I think to understand the problem, I think we need to understand the complex relationship. Diminishing human consciousness achum mana karino, aran mana karino, hingmina bana karino, power sharing na karino. But I think we are increasingly depoliticized, and this depoliticization is a very, very important factor that has also contributed to this situation of conflict. Ngasai aina haizaba ngasai politics society is depoliticized torokpa matamda ngasai Shriman haiba nupi gi problem sirida aina ubadadi ngasai gi nupi gi oiba issue gi achoba political movement nama lakpa ngamdriba social agenda ama set up toba ngamdaba sisu karigino haibadi nature of state amaga thengnariba aduga aikoina yamna militaristic oiba daily experiences mayam sisu yamna maram oiba karigino haiba matamda you are sort of engage in instant issues, not in long-term issues. For example, empowering women, liberating women from the oppressive existential issues would be something which has to be considered more as a long-term reality, long-term process. But you are not given an opportunity to reframe yourself to understand these long-term questions, but rather you are being forced to fight with the dailiness of your problems, that is militarization, that is killing of your citizens, killing of your sons and daughters and brothers. So women in that sense are, I think, very, very significant in terms of their resistance power, but in terms of their societal and political empowerment and political space, I think they have a very diminished situation of life. And that's, I think, where the problem lies. Adubo aina khanbada aikhoigi maira paibigi movement siga kitang halapna leiba nisaban gi movement jirazu aina Shrima hoida aina sum throw up tawning wasi. I'm nobody to speak about women's rights, but I have a feeling that this whole process of nisaban movement is also something which relates to liberation of women from the domestic violence, because men were committing historically violence against women in the domestic world, as a result of which this intoxication, these addiction of alcohol consumption or liquor consumption were all factors that contributes to the oppression of women at the private realm. Sigi private realm, the private life, the nupizings in namtharak pasi dagi nanthok na bagi da mata nupi sing na yamna meticulously on a design taraga ni shaban gi yausi lakhibani hai basisu dimension am oipi hai basine aduna colonial ethnographers sing na iramba matam dadi manipur gi nupa maroi na meitei nupa sing se yu thaga dum leiraga nupi na thabak subani hai bagum basu adugi historically iramba narrative su lei aduga ngasi akhoi gi manipuri khunai da akhoi gi nupa marakta leiriba natragana khunai sida yamna abusive use of liquors ye khoina madugi practice tu gi mami tabra haina khali adugi practice tu gi mami tu gi marum du da masi gi victims su nupi na dumak oi hai basi su ngasi su dum relevant oi na khali aikhoina problem si identify tawna bo hona basi yamna lui ai adai da dum leige aduga aina mayam da ngasi aina sidma pham sida lepagi aina kana ba loning basi karino haibada ngasai gi ai khoi political si karino haiba sida fundamentally toina hanbam changi sini ai khoi sum yeng bada university da discuss tawriba political science department sing da political science ki akoi gi courses sing da refresher course oja gi tawbada satra gi tawbada I think teachers have fundamentally not spoken much about what is political. This is a very, very important problem, I guess. I call political science oza mari ni se yaurize adana political science classroom the what is political hyper se kanto me hyper se ai gi chingna ba malai aina witness to bada adugi political hyper narrative discourses se I call classroom da khara hena lively ona discuss tawdrabadi. Let's talk about politics as a disciplinary responsibility. So political scientists have a responsibility to actually uphold the core of the discipline, which is political science, to talk about why talking about politics is very important, and it is important for every lay person, every human individual, in order to escape, in order to contain and understand the precarious conditions of their lives. Now, you know, atai aina sum mayam di yeng base ai khoi ji ngasai gi sigi yamna wahaba situation amada hatnaba hingminaram bagi liklam kaitharakpa yamna communal oiba ethnic oiba identity gi oiba wa khata ngangnarakpa adai di geography as destiny gi mongda lam khopna bagi adai di encircle to bagi sigi situation amada lakhiba se masi kamaina no masi gi matang da phajana dialogue ama tawna bagi room kamaina leitriba no haiba si ai khoina yamna khaningai oi adu bu luri badi ngasai gi society se conflicts in evident in ngasai budo aina instant to the problems me am jina ko encircle tawhal lakpa sum khudamana ngarang mi 13 si bagi pau lakpatigi we are completely now voted down by that particular incident of killing those 13 youths. And reportedly those youths were not found to be having any weapon in their hands. Aduna sigumba lawlessness ama lakpase hana eran gi lon diam phajana mahai there is a lawfulness without legality hai. I want to repeat this term, which is very beautiful, I guess. There is lawfulness without legality. There are a lot of laws, you know. Laws ngata nyatra akhone hingi oja law gi oja dilipsi obi. There are so many laws which say that you can do this and that, but things continue to happen which you probably do not like, and there is probably a problem in the whole idea of law that you have, because these laws do not have a sense of legality, which means the normative aspect of laws are missing in the practice and praxis of these laws. Adana I koi the lady problems yamna deepen oi adabu deepen oi ba si kainona masigi academic oi basi ai khoina impractical oi bagi level amada chat khre hujik se narrative se ngasai gi instant oi issues me amse mi sirakpa mi hanarakpa mi mangba sigi torokpa lam mangakpa mi leibi yarakta ethnic cleansing gi mong de chatharakpa si mayam sina maram oirakanda ai khoi da kaida bagi hangada sigi narrative ki level da engage down bagi moments is ko phangandre ado ain hanging di sigi narrative ki level engage toba phangakri base masi well design oi beza la hai base akoi na mudang khanthabi bu changi university ki campus da wangang na banina I can take some liberty to speak about the significance of academics. Aina su WhatsApp group te yeng zabada nakoi group se academic oi dun ai di user roi toki ba mi su yawi. Now the fundamental problem is that there is a disconnection. There is a disconnection between what is thought process and what you actually practice. But I think there cannot be a stringent separation between your thought process and what you practice. And nupi singi liberation as a thought process ki change ama laktana nupi ki revolution nupi ki change zu lawe haiba dugumna Manipur gi idea Manipur se ai kona kahenda na thamna bohon rakpada mapandi forces mayam na pirei ba sapu ji thengna bohon bada akuna better of oiba narrative ama puthok panadi Manipur kan bangam gani haiba thajaba do ngasi su aingon de leijaba aduna maram moraga Manipur da ngasai gi laiba ngasi ki yamna segmented oiba fragmented oiba narrative sina aikoi da yomsel laga thamaga aikoi gi hana historically lerakpa hingminara pigi traditions me amdo loina mukta torokhi de mong da ledam do mong da la ankiba knowledge system ama laiba se this is something I think very dangerous for the years to come adana ngasi gi youth sings ai imung da sudum hainai ai gi family da amasung ngasi gi tinbiri ba miam da aina haining busi kai no haraga di ai koina sigi narrative sigi dangerous oiba possibilities e khanga da bani habisni masidani amuk su aina ai ke academic ki oiba citation ke tang tawzige khoi Ekman gi trial 1961 da toba Jerusalem the Ekman bu trial to matam da mana hai ki bodo I have not killed anyone I was simply doing my duty hai ma kanam da mi hat ki belaite Hitler na matak tagi mi halu hai be gi bureaucrat amoin hat pakaktani ai gi kaim ta haning bu su yaude ai di kaim da ida leide I'm innocent hai beneba. The problem is that you cannot continue to say that I'm not interested in politics because I have no concern for politics. I'm simply living as a human being. I'm simply eating and doing my work and that's my world. Haiba say yarak taba matang lai because then you are killing your thought processes and killing your thought processes like killing your own societal, germination of a good life. Adana sigi background sida aina khanbada ngasi si aikona democratic oiba voice ma putok si apunba idea Manipur do aikoi di lerambani lehenna ba hona kisi haiba sidaisida problem tholok pasi karigino haiba si wahang oina lei aduga masibu thugaina na ba thadari investment mayam se jo aikoina khangba ngamdabadagi haiba wakhalona si achumba malakpa sina manufactured constant amagi level yorok pa haibadare there is an apparent consensus that we probably cannot live together haina khalpa mi si yaw yawe aduna si khalak pasiga iroina yamna society violence yam hengale aduna sigi hengalei base subconscious level da we are also in a trap I was going to khang bangam dragadi aikoi ge khunai sada restoration of normalcy restoration of our history our coexistential capacity do adu mangak pada aikoi khangok de haibagi chingna badu loijai aina loisilak pada haining ba se aikoi ge Kunaida Manipur gi apunbagi idea hingminabagi ade wahaurba oppressed people mayam sigi nungaina bagi journey ama mangla ama mangna bagi adugi narratives mayam se kaido bagi haigana displaced or matam jida ai koi da kaido illusion ma tholeba illusion du kaino oiroi da bra haiba wakhal akiba su phawale masidai sida lurakli base ai koi gi phawreiba illusion nam oina concrete political evidences laiba aikoi reality aikoi historicity do aikoi illusion oina lai basigi my investment mayam do institutions mayam gi functional aspect to yenglabadi aikoi Manipur da khara hena tangdu laita ba aduga Manipur gi geography Manipur gi demography gi yamna sensitive oiba body polity ma engineer torei se ngasi gi phammi ba mirol aikoi gi matam da ri soidna thengnaragani haibase aina yahaningi karigino haiba matam da last Jai Tarit Kunta Pagi Matungda geopolitical gi achoba safu se aikoi second world war da khar hena thengnaki aduga second world war gi matungda 2023 gi May 3rd ki matungda tholaiba si gi development singsida geopolitical dynamics ma sai faris na haibi ki ba aduna the geography is going to be perhaps determining our future history, our future course of life, and the generation sitting here, people like you and me, will have to be very cautious about this complex development that is going to be witnessed in the region called the Northeast India. Aduna, finally, the message is very clear. I know how would I political the withdrawal it's a very dangerous situation. Aduga academics the ladiba PhD tauba student oja mahiro mi punamak assistant professors whatever teaching profession the labor work for a rent condition the labor it's very dangerous. I repeat, that's not work. as if you're working for a rent. Si bhab tabirang mane khali PhD scholars sing de adana aikoina honariba mayam se production of certain idea, certain perspective, and I think there's no stringent distinction between what is thought process and what is action. So with these words in mind, I think things are getting very complex, but I still hold on to the idea, and I want my people around here to think about the possibility of living together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Noni. Two very quick questions. If you have any two very quick questions. Okay, no one. Now, let me invite the last speaker. Last but not the least, Dr. Sapam Dilip, Department of Law, Manipur University. Dr. Sapam Dilip has written a lot of articles concerning international law and human rights, and he has even published a book, if I'm not wrong. So now I invite Dr. Sapam Dilip.
Thank you, moderator. So being a last speaker, I'll be very short, and it will be very difficult to speak on politics in the midst of students from political science and the teachers from political science, because I am from a different stream. But I do believe that there is inseparable relation between law and politics, because law is the reflection of the political will. Habidi politics ki satra makti natabadina, but aigi premise wina thamjari si law ka politics ka anisi thadok na ba yaroi. Law say it is the reflection of politics ni, but question again is that law, whether law again control politics. Politics means exercise of that sovereign power. Its sovereignty do na law se amuk semi, but whether sovereign is again controlled by the law made by itself. Law ga politics ka anigi lainariba marido madu yengaga aina aigi thajazaba dadi law se papungoina legislation si dadi politics na control tawi dubu ozano ni na yam phazaba wafam khara puthorai whether law has an independent existence, whether law should have independent existence. Law si politics to na control tawraga thamgadra natraga law si independent existence ama laigadra. Jew mayam sing halakpa matamdu da kona Second World War thora kanda Nuremberg trial la matamdu di law haibase politics na control tawdaba something value khara yawba pot ama yawgadabani haiba pose ozano ni na thamambasi sizu ya maru oi. But for today I start with the premise that there is inseparable relation between law and politics, particularly in international law, and I'm going to discuss a bit about the international refugee law and politics and its impact on Northeast India. Hozike haijari bo afam kharji thammaga koigi refugee gi politics, refugee gi law leitabasina mapungoina Northeast India aduga Manipur da karamaina kari asokpa lakpagi kari lakpagi haibadu mapungoina naina bane koina mapungoina khangbadi World War 1 and 2 sidagi akoigi mi se migration tawi na migration sina maram oiraga leiba amaga lainariba mi singse tachok tasin taunarakpa sidagi actually this akoigi kaino se refugee gi crisis se haure refugee crisis se mapungoina Russia gi First World War matungda Russia ga Armenia gi refugee gi Kangbu sing si kramaina deal tawgadage haibadu deida 1933 da League of Nations gi makada refugee gi law amka convention am semi, but that convention is not comprehensive, but more comprehensive convention was adopted under the aegis of United Nations. Second World War gi achauba mi amaga massive akoigi migration tawbasidagi sigi crisis se kamaina thengnagadagi na haibadu deida sigi 1951 gi UN gi refugee convention ji thoklai aduna refugee convention ji gi mamangda Universal Declaration of Human Rights ki akoigi right to asylum abadi kanagumba mi amana magi maraiba country of origin du deida leiba nungai traba mangonda leiba kiraga atopa leibak amada chilakpa matamda atopa leibak tuna du mabu receive tawraga ma ngakpi senbi gadabani haiba sigi asylum gi right si recognize tawi na asylum gi right si state ki mapung oiba responsibility ama oiba individual protect tawgadabani haiba state ki fundamental duty duga naknare haiba yai maramdi state system la aba matung du deida stateless person ji leiba yabra protection leitaba individual ama world leiba yabra haibagi question ji tholakpanina stateless person ji leihandana state amana protection pinaba honaba duni aduna asylum du fanga aba matung du daida kona refugee haibagi magi status si la aduna refugees in 1951 gi convention gi matung inadi kanagumba mioi ama masana any person who is not willing to return to his country of origin because of well-founded fear of persecution. Mayum the hek hanbada country of origin do the hanbamatam the masi otpina birani persecution taurana akiva fauraga chela abamido madubuni when a refugee ado mana chela ibasiki grounds karino ma racial oiba discrimination natraga race ta mase persecution tawbirani torture tawbirani haina khallaba natragana magi religion da persecution tawnena religious persecution tawnena akiba ama piraba natragana political society amada mana yaurubadagi madudagi maram oraga masi otpi nei birani na kiraga selak targadi adugumba midu refugee haina kawi aduna sigi refugee gi concept simakse Europe ta eurocentric oiba concept amani haidana laibak kharanadi sigi refugee convention ji mana yade refugee convention si yade aduna refugees things da mapung oiba magi mapung oiba right ahum khaklei refugees e kanano har kanda mapung oina race ta aduga religion da aduga akoi gi kanagumba political party amagi organization amagi member oiraba madudagi maram oraga masi ot nairani hana kirase dalai lama chela ise sumaina chelakpa mi singduni adubu sigi definition se eurocentric oi haidana leibak mayam amana masi je masigi convention je masi yaningde adna later development da Africa da Organization of African Unity in 1969 da moigi oiba refugee gi convention ma semak matam dadi khare hena pakthok sauk thora aga asagi ethnic conflict kumba lakum matam atragana aggression lakpa da sumaina chelak padusu refugee oigadabani haiba adagi Cartagena declaration Latin America ge sumaina regional level dadi khara khara sauk thoga leiraga su UN gi level dadi hujik hairiba ground mari sinatana kanagumba matana refugee status se mana tanba refugee lawbasi yaroyana haibani adna refugee gi right mapung oiba right ahum khak lei adi non refoulement hai the return to holoidabani non refoulement clause the well founded fear of persecution leitargadi country of origin do thadoga chela agadi ma chela iba host state tuna mabu receive tawbiraga mangak selaga thambigadabani but madugi ngak sen gadoi jong asai gi ground sing tu daida amakhak exception ama leiridi mana asai gi UN gi purpose and principle do adugi against thabak tawramagadi ma chela aga zu ma piba yaroi say for example war crime commit tawro crime against humanity crime of aggression aduga sugumbak aduga terrorism sumba commit tawraga la aga chelak targadi ma si leiba yaroi adudi extradition amuk tawtare crime tawra avanina haina huziki sumaina labors they the right ahum non refoulement ama aduga non discrimination haiba ama aduga right to asylum haiba maga sigi right ahum je refugee amana phangadaba right ni haibadi return da hondaba non refoulement di return tawdaba aduga discrimination tawbidaba aduga mabu shelter pibiba sigi right mari si mapungwena phangeduna non refoulement clause si akoina international covenant on civil and political rights aduga convention against torture adagi UN declaration on territorial asylum duga American Human Rights Convention duga European Human Rights Convention sugumba convention mayam sing state the sigi principle that the principle is reflected in these international conventions aduna it has acquired the status of customary rules of international law, that is the preemptory norms of international law or jus cousin kanantana sigi rules idi amu thugai ba yaroi the customary rules oirabanina ai refugee convention si yawi natraga yawde hana aina chien ba yaroi loinabak na sigi non refoulement clause idi si accept tawgadabani haiba sigi non refoulement clause si amna maru oiba clause ama oina huziki kano sida lay aduna sigi yamna maru oiba pot kharasi la akan sida refugees se kamaina solve tawgadagi its problems se kamai solve tawgadagi har kanda problem se solve tawnaba lambi ahum katani lambi ahum se voluntary repatriation edi masa mathanda loira irang loira matungda mayumda halanba natragana local integration tawba mana lairuriba mafam host state today da masi integrate tawraga license giba ma natragana resettlement then kanagumba atopa leibak amada tharaga kanagumba leibak amana receive tawraga ma resettle tawba sigi ahum zinatana refugee gi problem je settle tawna ba kano leite ana India gi context la akan da India gi refugee gi lom te leite maram di kano kanda India was absent when the UN Convention on Refugee 1951 was adopted in the in 1951, and at the same time UNICR linkhanaba adopt tawnaba vote lawnaba matam dasu India was absent aduna India da chap saba refugee gi law ma di huzik phawa refugee gi law se leiti aduna mana mapung oina refugee se kari kari na khoi se deal tawgada gi hargadi foreigners act kumba passport act kumba sugumba si natana foreigners se deal tawna ba pot se leiti refugees se ana India si magi refugee gi law leitraga su but akoina ngalingai matam dagi India se refugee gi host state adum ore partition kauthokraba matung 1959 dagi horaga refugees Tibetan refugees 1959 dagi changba hore Tibetan refugee hojik Dalai Lama hoi adum Delhi da adum leiri aduna sigi Tibetan refugee koina Indiana loksallu base sina China ga India ga gi relation da afaba yam phaba relation ama poropadi oide adubu huzik adum sise adum leiri aduga mu 1960s gi deida huzik su dum khoina khangba sakma refugee haina Chittagong hill track tagi community ahum mapungoina chakma community hajong aduga atopa community amaga sigi community mayam si koi partition torokpa matamda moji Hindu Christian aduga Buddhist ngakta oibadagi East Pakistan oigrama matungda mona right to self determination moisi maning tam gadong na land tawrubadagi madugi takhaina rakpa dadagi loina madu chenjalaga hojik Assam da hojik achauba kaino oina Arunachal Pradesh hojik wathuk oiraga leiriba chakma refugee gi sigi achauba refugee gi 1960s gi size da refugee gi crisis ama sisu India da adum leiba adagi 1971 gi akoi Bangladesh war si lak matam sida chu akoi 10 million sena Bangladeshi mayama India da chenjale Assam da aduga Tripura da aduga akoi gi Meghalaya da sigi 10 millions yam graba mi mayam si loin chenjalaga sigi refugee mayam sing se north east ki sigi high bus state sing se da like corner repatriate tawi voluntary repatriation tawi but lak mayam amadi akoi gi Manipur da su akoi gi se kainoromda kumbirom dagi haidaraga leibalam adagi atei mafam jingsi da adugi Bangladeshi gi lakwa mi mayam jingsi adai da settle tawga even Manipur da bawda adugi kainosi lei ana refugee gi se 1990s da khoi gi Bhutan gi Bhutan ga Nepal ga Nepali Bhutan da leiba Nepali singi adugi refugee gi asoba crisis ama adu jasu adum thoe adu samanana khara hena haidagraba matung asonda haidagraga akoi Tamil Nadu da ngasagi LGT yam kalingai da Tamil da refugee mayama sange aduga khwaidagi chawba refugee akoina sangakpa Bangladesh ki mathang da sang pase akoina Burma dagi sangakpa refugee singsne Burma gi refugee se India da han boina Second World War gi mamang da mapungoina Tamil singse lalol itiki aduga job ki Burma da yam chatle adubu lal loiraba matung military coup tawra matung da di moise in terms of lakhs moi thokla kanda kaino da settle tawre Tamil Nadu da adun Tamil Nadu da settle tawra matung du da Tamil government na moise settle tawraga moi angan ba saruk ta adu loigre second phase lak matam da di khoi gi Manipur da su yawrakiba khoi gi pro democracy gi movement 888 ki sigi movement ki matam sidai di khoi gi massive oina sigi refugee mayam sing se khoi sida changchal paduna akhoi gi India gi oina ding sai aina thamjakhiba sakma gi case tu da sakma gi Khudiram sakma versus state of Arunachal Pradesh na sigi kesam kada sakma jing se Arunachal Pradesh ta loina haijalla la ko dagi Arunachal gi moi gi students union aduga government na moi se tanthok kadam ne haba moi gi su movement asoba lei Assam da su foreigners movement se khoi gi 1971 gi dagi adumaina thoklakpani aduna sigi is da Khudiram sakma gi case dei da refugees jing sigi magi moi se hana leira momfam dagi moi se tanthok pa yai moi gi damakta piri bal lamdo aduda leihan gadabani maram di Indian citizen natamna moi se fundamental rights se enjoy to ba yaroi haidana Khudiram sakma gi case dei da Supreme Court na pi masi refugee law ga mari leinana piba court ki verdict ne law ina di chapchana refugee law se ko India da leiti aduga chamana 1994 gi case ni 1996 ta mo National Human Rights Commission ga khoi na Supreme Court ta lakma matam da di sidani National Human Rights Commission gi case sidani sakma refugees in right recognize tawraga right to life and personal liberty article 21 sidi citizen non-citizen individual oitadi moise sigi rights si protect the pigadabani right to life and personal liberties di city phanghan gadabani as National Human Rights Commission ga versus the ziki National Human Rights Commission ki 1996 ki case is da sumaina lepadagi refugees in sigi right amaka recognition ama lae huziki ngalingai matam da lamdawa ad hoc basis ta sum case to case solve torambodo huziki dumaina refugee gi adumaina lakraba matung da Burma dagi 1998 ki sigi changakpa mayam sidai da Manipur da su lay aduna adugi huziki matam du da matam dugi external affairs minister oramba PV Narasimha Rao na thamgi base Burma dagi changakpa huziki pro democracy gi movement da changakpa jingse halal loidabani moise non reformment ki type da moise moi yum da halal loidabani moise receive to bigadabani haibasi si mana phongdo khiba matam dugi government na phongdo ki wafam ne aduga sigi wafam zil lairaba matung sidai da Manipur da sidagi Chandel gi sidai da chatlaga sida leikhul na amakak lei mayam Chandel chapira magadi dum thengna birangani hujikti Chandel chapa nungai dong mantre hana chat matam di Palen dagi Chandel sangbagi lambi is da akoi gi MR gi post sangbak lei adugi post gi manakta leikhul na lei sigi leikhul je government na establish tawba akoi gi hujik hairiba refugee hairazu natragana asylum seeker moi mayam sigi leibham ni hujiki sida aduna sidai da tongan ba potsing da akoi gi matsana ba fazana pidi kaina protest taw gi bagi pot ya hujiki sida adum lei aduna 2000 gi adwai da di Burmese refugee mayam singse akoi gi laikhun dagi nanthoga lamna satpa yaroi kaina haidana government na order pire ana tas akoina sigi refugee gi India gi achauba web si yenga ko matam sidai khwai dagi hena effect over area se kaidano se khoina identify to yar ne ba sagi chumi Afghanistan dagi khar sangai ira dudi masang aktane ba right from 1959 dagi na hujibo gi 2018 da akoi gi Rohingya gi achauba magi refugee gi kaino ma wave from later sidai da khwai dagi chauna so isi north east state singa tane Bangladesh ki oi matam da Bangla changma refugee lang matam da Tripura da Assam da aduga Arunachal Pradesh da Bangladesh ki refugee lang matam da Tripura da Assam da adagi loina north east ki state puna maksidai da Bhutan gi lak matam da su Nepal da chiel ga su Nepalese origin sing do Bhutan da gi chien gra ga su Assam da faur ga Assam se dum so ga dum leiba aduga huziki duga chamana na Burmese gi posi lak matam sis da su huziki du maina North Eastern States sing dei da India gi policy da mapung oina huziki refugee gi law leita basi dei da khwai digi hena chai thing piri di North state sing sineba mapung oina haibadi refugee ki law si laitar gadi refugee sina kanano illegal migrants sina kanano si identify tawra matung daida refugees sing dudi hayang repatriate tawgani voluntary repatriation tawhangani aduga magi protection adu loi thambirane ba aduga khoi di hujikti law su laitabani illegal immigrant na kanano aduga tasengna asylum seeker laising sina kanano isi akhoina identify tawba ngamdabagi awaba achauba pot ama lae aduna huziki akoina laikhunda leirami basing se akoi study ama aina season ba wat pagi oram bai laikhunda leiramba aduga akoi gi 888 ta akoina host oiraga leikhiba refugees sing do kai da leigrage huzik se moi se locally integrate tawraga moi se resettle taw moi se integrate taw grabra natragana moi se akoi gi voluntary repatriation taw grabra adu natragana atopa country da resettle taw grabra se some few refugees from Manipur resettled in Australia. Say hire me khara di lai re aduna sigi sida mangriba mi mayam sing se karai da sat kharge moi di politically aware oiraga changakpa mi ngakta ne aduna sigi achauba akhoi da ahoba makak leigibra hojiki refugees se management tawuma tamsi da haiba wahang si achauba ma sida lae aduna Manipur gi hojik lairiba fibam sida su conflict se leirigai di akhoi migration di atopalaiba amadagi atopalaiba amada migrate tawsidi adum continue tawga migrate tawgane aduna sokado is di hujiki North Eastern states sing Assam already magi foreigner issue leigre Tripura loigre aduga Arunachal Pradesh se adum hujik irang tawna lei Manipur su sigi samana posting sineba aduna hujik la iba poti sagi luama leiraktabasina Loma has the political will, Nasaki politics to I Nasai Hamada Tamzakiba politics to go low Mari Laner as Nasaki low Sembaisi, Nasaki legislatures into a CMA, legislatures into will, Moigi Poli Adukumba will do Lairaktragadi, Luosidum Siamak Trail. Other Luos is Siam Dramatam's the day, Koigumba community Masa. Lakragi mi khradang lai basida di sigi achauba massive wave si lakuma tamsida di akhoi je nong mana traga dini da pulap eta akhoi je mangi ba yabagi aki basi dum
Radlif, can we sum up?
Yes aduna huziki hairi ba magi fibam adugi fibam dula lakuma tamdu dai dadi huzi akhoi na darka already ngasai gi legal vacuum ama lairi se sigi legal vacuum ama lairi si masi lay sum lairaga di akhoi da hena sina mong sa da fibam ama lakpa yai aduna oiraiba akoigi ngasaina thamjagiba case khara khak lokhatlaga yengaiba matamsidaida khwaidai na soiba mafamse karai dano India gi oina atopa mafam singda sokra magi boundary geography ji yeng matamda isingna loi question leiba mafam singdu dadi thoidokpa adugi awaba ka su leitre Himalayan range leiba mafam du da ka su thoidokpa awaba leitre sigi jaga ji dadi yamna sokne lei aduna North East ki issue je center yongna pukhatpada adum awaba kharadi adum oi aduga state ki oina di Masai India ki constitution je yeng matamda federalism ne hairagasu separation of power yengba matam sidaida and maru oiba power khuding makti state list 7 schedule de yeng matam sidaida loina bak center na loina pair lerangani aduna center na adu mapung oina refugee ki law semba natraga refugee convention adopt ratify to wise central government ki khutta lei and central government ki loi khutta lei state ki machet masam ko bibiram bai wane ba hujiki khoi gi state list central list ani is de yeng matam da and state ki di yam ka su hena power leite aduna sigi akhoi gi hujik leiri bas deida machet ama khak yeng bani ani yeng jari aduna sigi machet ama si yeng akpa matam du deida refugee ki law ama duga akhoi gi UN ki convention ji India na ratify to ba ma mapung oina North East state singi yengbiraga magi problem leiriba akhoi gi crisis si yengaga masi ma darkar oi bra haiba wafum ji thamjaraga ai khurumjar.
Thank you. Maybe we're getting late, so crowd is also getting shrink. So I don't see But if there is any question, floor is open for question. Yes, Malengamba, please come there.
Good evening all, and thank you to all the speakers. My name is Amo Malamganba Singh. I'm a research scholar at the Department of Political Science. My question is to Oza Noni. Oza, after Azagi speech to ina sum muna taja bada nasagi speech to depoliticization oi bada adi focus toroga adi center oiraga adu ina lawjei bako ina adu aigi mota ti ngasai Ozagi to ina speech sum taja bada ngasagi Manipur gi society gi politics yengja bada depoliticization natabako hyper, not dego, hyper politicization, which is integrationist or assimilationist oibago. Aduga to put it aptly, ngasagi balance yung matamda politics karambono hamgatamda generally negative oiba politics ko. Fear aduga revenge aduga ngasagi kihanba adaidi revenge loba retaliation aduga anger oiba sumbas do in focus torogo oibako. So how do we overcome this politics of from this politics of negative emotions given the context of the idea of Manipur? So thank you.
Any other? Okay, please come, Ali. No, I'll take a couple of questions more, and after getting the questions, I'll request the speakers to respond to that.
Thank you, sir.
Ali.
I is Oza Nonida focus on Juraga Hangage. Ozana say high about the idea of Manipur, see, could manufacture to Bagi Kariama consumer high hibato. I think it's the idea of Manipur, idea of Manipur, diverse society, another idea of Manipur, see, can you don't have to Ozagi more, Ozagi perspective in the Tambione. Thank you, sir.
Okay, any other one? Okay, I hope there is no other questions, so I request Dr. Noni to answer the questions.
Thank you for the important questions raised to me. First question though, depoliticization Mande aduga housing legacy hyper politicization haiba amasijin ipi madu thoidona depoliticization si interpretative ideas yengoraga di meaning di manado mali aikoina hyper politicization hai taraga di you are trying to say that this hyper politicization is a realm of false consciousness haido mali. If hyper-politicization say false consciousness in Hegel na hybrid way, Angel na hybrid way taradi, aina hari but depoliticization, depoliticization haiti sinagide aina sinabdi apolitical oiba withdrawal from politics. Haigimani adupo aina somgi wahang dugi paukum say aiga fundamentally kenabdi nati anikali si matangda. Adupo hyper-politicization this is in a see high taragadi globally far right wingers me am tholok political world. Masina maram orakanda politics hyper consciousness ma generate tore hyper yado mali ado edi kamaina effect tore makoina far right wing me amje assert torta the ethnicity wankalakani inter-community relationships violent orakani domination torokani adi lastly we probably will not be able to know who is the oppressor and who is the oppressed aduma ina khumningi masigi hyper politicization ze nahana negative aba lord sinaki aina sinaki male ado negativity of politics ni hana lobi ai which is something against the spirit of what we call politics or against what we call let's talk about politics I go into politics what is hanazi haiba say we want to say what is the better form of government we want to say who is the better leader aduki spirit to the magi topic si generate torpo ramni adu gi spiritual generate torpo oita rabadi we do not like politics that is hyper, we do not like politics that is far right kind, we do not want politics that is ethnic, we do not want politics that is that is not going to differentiate between who is oppressor and who is oppressed. Na ki question du gi atopa dimension amada aina khumning base hauji politics hyper politicization torokpa si the ethnicization torokpa matam si the problem ang thola isi kai no hai kanda violence perpetrate to buze miyoi kanglu kharana oppressor violence perpetrate to in lohal. This is a very fundamental point again. Khudam moin har kanda states in violence perpetrate to the baduga magi certain subjectivity the leriba certain citizen section amana violent or pani han loeb makoi ki definition ki para premise yengada masi is upside downturn tom change kari no haita di violence theoretically and historically yang matan violence oppressor na perpetrate toeb adu oppressor reply response toeb aduna maram orakanda nahaki question to ki paukhum do aina adum na piningi, but fundamental agreement between you and me is that we do not want politics to be negatively understood. We want politics to be positively understood, because we still have been asking question which is a better form of government and who is a better leader, which is a better society. Next question for Ali na haigi bado manufactured idea di haigi di aina haizabadi aikoi da hujik se afaba punsiro lama afaba lengak ama afaba khunai lon ama lening bagi mangla na se aikoi si withdrawal si lakhibana mar morgan akoi hopelessness samagalone hinge ba masi hopelessness se manufactured oiba consent amani aikoi na hana makti sumaine khalamde masidani aikoi yam interesting oibam lei ai lotion jarage masi gi matang da Gramsci na hai bako aikoi gi so hena renes my haibani hana dine civility hai the definition of khuda ma hana di politician hai ga di se khoi gi Indian perspective te yengta di khoi khaw ma yan ba dhoti im set pa makoi marang chomba oza or ga retire torok pa ade social work ni ga har ga khungang ga khong na pujja chat pa mi na politician oi haina traditionally image ma Indian psyche da leiba Manipuri psyche da ke da ye khoi na 80s bo yeng wa da oza ji school de retire toroga vote lepa ade di miyam gi thabak to ba lai kai gi yamna mi gi thodo wathok chatkan ba mi yawa bem ugan ba mi dana social work toroga vote ka lepak pa, but I think that imagery is now declining. Adugi imagery do aikoi hujikti aikoi naham tana ai cha singna domna aikoi naha singna politician haigadi yamna well dressed oidaba yamtina makoi marang chomba well polished oidaba adugi mundane oiba yamna grassroots character imagine to the yaurak tre. So that is what we call that impossibility is that's called manufactured identity or manufactured consent. Lastly, idea of Manipur in Hyderabad, we have had a long history of an idea of Manipur. Adana was a haiba masigi historically approved over historically loina na semi nagiba khunai loina yauro semi nagiba adugi idea of Manipur to erase to nabagi politics ama yawi sine in haini se masigi erase to no politics se kuki channel sing na puthore ba narrative to yam kanna mami tai aduga aikoi gi housing lai ba violence ki patterns it zu madugi idea do non existent oi visible oi di haibaji mapan gi forces sing na mami tahali khudamoina Mizoram da bot tawraga Manipur gi wari yam yarak pasi aduga vote karaba matung da su Manipur gi wari ji puthorak pase asumna tawduna aigi law da di kitang blatant when Hyderabad Manipur has been suffering largely not because of politics that is generated from within. Manipur has been suffering mainly because of the politics that is being imported. Mapandagi changapa political elements में हमने मापांडे की चंगा political currents में हमने geopolitics और across the border और state थंगरी पर में हम जिका लेरी ethnic relationships के मागी agenda सिंग से इनसे लगभग मतलब जिदा मणिपुर की होनरम tranquility मणिपुर की हिंगमिनरम tranquility दा यामने system act और ना यामने challenge ताऊरी अरोई पता मसीबु challenge ताऊ या ना बगी अनो literature जो university सिंग दा पुथोरई अदुगा मसीगी whole process of living together से invisible ओय है बजी proof ताऊ या ना बगी अचौबा different layered intellectual exercise mayam chu tawi, which probably we have to debunk at some point. Thank you.
Once again, my greetings to all of you. The problem today, in fact, is overemphasis on power. And when politics is used as a means to get that power, politics becomes very nasty. That's the problem. That is why, most of the problem with the younger generation is also that only. Our society's overemphasis on power affect us a lot. And that is why, people keep saying, especially advising students and younger generations to avoid politics. Because that politics which is used as a means of power becomes very, very nasty. And there is a saying, and that is true, I feel, that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. That is why you, especially the younger generations, are asked or, advised to avoid power. But there are different aspects of power, and many of the aspects are already presented by our speakers beautifully. There are different issues surrounding us as well. Say, for example, issues concerning immigrations, which affect demography of our, society. There are issues of women. There are issues of, say, issues of living together in this small territory. Now, what especially the younger generations need to think about is to come out of that overemphasis on power. Instead of thinking politics as a means to get power, we need to think about solutions. Use these politics to resolve these issues concerning our society. Say, for example, we can think about institutions. Think about developing institutions so that we can live together peacefully, and that is what you call peaceful coexistence. We can think about solution to our, immigrations, which give a lot of, effect on our demography. And there are so many other issues. Anyway, I don't like to go into much detail because many of the aspects are already talked about by our different speakers. I would like to thank once again our panelists, to name Dr. Fariz Khan from DM University, then Srima Ningombam from Nambo El Sanoi College, and Dr. Noni from Department of Political Science, DM University, and Dr. Sapam Dilip from Department of Law, Manipur University. And over and above, I would like to give a lot of credit to the MUSU, the organizers of this talk. They have been doing a lot of wonderful works, including this. And I think all of you might have learned a lot from this. You might have get a lot of ideas, a lot of new expectations, a lot of ideas to resolve so many issues in the society which we presently facing. So I would like to thank once again MUSU, not only for organizing such a meaningful event, but also for making me a part of this one. But at the end, to conclude the sessions in a very, very warm and lively way, I would like to invite Dr. Srima Ningomba for presenting a political, so-called political, poem, or verse, political poem. So let's welcome Srima Ningomba for that. After that, we'll end the session.
Actually, I got this poem to be read out during my presentation, but I got carried away and I missed the poem. But I didn't want to go back home without presenting the poem to you all. So I hope that in the spirit of the Academy, in the spirit of the book fair which is being presented here, And in the spirit of the love for this land, I would like to present my poem. Aigi saireng sigi maming di nongzabi. Mama kayagi machagi ikheng na sangkiba. Lamdam asigi numidang wairam gi nongzabi se. Nong magi mayek labe hengat lagli. Phazabasu asum hengat lagli. Mama kayagi mamom kayagi pirang na sientharakli ba lamdam asigi turel gi iraini. Nong magi inot hapli. Phazabasu asum hengat lagli. Pukning kayagi omchak na bana intham thagi ulen bu sogdok hali. Nong bagi mangkre ulen di. Khoi shaw na badi asum hengat lagli. Phazade karam na hai sige. Nungshide karam na hai sige. Pamude karam na hai sige. Aigi natte karam na hai sige. Phazai nungshi pamui aigini pumhang lasu pumam lasu pumang lasu aigini aigi bayang pungnu abu thagat sa.
We conclude the session with that. Thank you all.